And I yield back.
And Ms. Dingle, I appreciate that offer, and that's why we're having this hearing on a discussion draft to figure out how to work together in a bipartisan manner. I now recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Graves, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just noticed my good friend's poster back there, Project 2025, and I was talking to some folks in the team. Apparently, he linked that poster to the Chairman Westerman's bill. I can't tell you how much I pause and I have hesitation about undermining your messaging here, but the chairman's bill is actually based on legislation that was filed in 2021 and based on the Builder Act. I mean, it's based on Builder Act, which was, I believe, 2021. And so to suggest that this Project 2025, which I'm not even certain what that is, and if you could provide me a copy of the document, that'd be helpful. The Project 2025, that would be 2025. Mr. Westerman's bill was based upon 2021 legislation. So again, I can't tell you how much I hesitate to ever undermine your messaging, but it's wrong. Secondly, Ms. Dingle just talked about bipartisan support and working together, and Ms. Dingle, I share that sentiment, and that's why the CRA that we've introduced has not only bipartisan but bicameral support. We have Republicans and Democrats in both the House and the Senate that are very concerned about the White House's their refusal to actually promulgate regulations that are consistent with the negotiation that we had. That's what this is about. And so I want to point out some examples. At the end of my statement in introducing this legislation, I talked about how the majority of infrastructure projects carried out across the country don't have to comply with NEPA. They don't, because it doesn't trigger federal permitting or impact federal resources, and it doesn't include federal funding. And so I do think that we need to have a little bit of faith in our state and local governments, and that there are already protections in place, not to mention what I believe are a strong desire within the public to make sure that the environment's protected. I just listened to Mr. Beard talk about my home state of Louisiana. The district that I represent, the people that I represent, are getting ready to get pounded by a hurricane. And the area where this hurricane is getting ready to hit is the strong side of the storm, the east side of the storm, it looks like it's going to be St. Mary and Terrebonne parishes. There are projects in each of those parishes that have been sitting around for decades. For decades. The Morganza the Gulf project, which is the project that protects Terrebonne Parish, that project started in 1992. 1992. It took 30 years to get the first dollar in construction funds for that project because it had just been stuck in regulatory hell. And so, look, if we're going to go out there and we're going to build these resilience projects, if we're going to go out there and go build charging stations, I can do like my friend from California, and I can UC in stories in the newspaper. Y'all wanted to build 500,000 charging stations, 500,000, and I think that Senator Merkley is quoted as saying that they got a few dozen of them built right now. Last time I looked, there were 7. You can go back and you can look at American Rescue Plan, you can look at the infrastructure bill, and you can look at the IRA. All bills that y'all pushed. And according to Politico, 70% of the money is still sitting in the bank because this administration's regulatory agenda is completely incompatible with their infrastructure agenda. These people can't get out of their own way. These are self-inflicted wounds. This is what I used to do. I used to build stuff. I used to do NEPA. And it is disastrous what these people are doing. Not to mention breaking trust with an agreement that they shook my hand on and said that they would abide by, only to have the chair of CEQ sit right there and admit that she intentionally avoided provisions in the law. This is outrageous what's going on. I've eaten up most of my time. Mr. Reams, I want to ask you a question. You are just simply doing math. You're connecting the dots. There's increased energy demand and need We need mining projects for renewable energy. We need oil and gas projects for that demand. Can you talk about that relationship, about how an overly complex regulatory process blocks our ability to implement all of the above energy?
Well, I think also one of the pieces is thinking about it's not just it's the supply chains, it's the road to get to the mining. Our supply chains are being they're crumbling or they don't exist. We need to rebuild these in some way. So this puts some sanity back into the process. If we're going to manufacture, if we're going to lead in this world, I guess are we serious about that or not? Because it seems like the incompatibility that you talk about is rampant. It's like we're without a strategic plan about how to lead, how to build, and we're sending the wrong signals by a cumbersome process. We need to show that we're serious about building, we're serious about energy independence, and we're serious about also reducing emissions, which also would bring on more clean energy. There's a disconnect now.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I didn't realize how big Mr. Bentz's head is. He's blocking like 2 whole people. I've never seen it. That's fascinating. I hope that thing's filled with brains. This could be amazing. I yield back.
Is that a request to have Mr. Bentz duck when you're talking? The gentleman's time has expired. The chair.
Without objection. Mr. Chairman, may I ask for a unanimous consent request, please? Since Mr.
Sure.
Graves has invited it, I think this is probably a good time to enter all 920 pages of Trump's Project 2025 into